Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
Although we haven't been completely together on every episode, this is our 300th episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. I wanted to take some time and figure out best way to do this episode because it is a milestone episode. But in the end, I think it's a little bit about where we've been and where we're going, both with our show and I think with Star Wars in general.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to focus on in this episode is really talk about, our passion and our memories a little bit, and then, talk about where we think Star Wars is going because the Skywalker saga has ended and there is a little bit of uncertainty of what we're getting, with the dawn of, well, not the dawn anymore, but kind of, with Disney Plus having launched and all of these different rumors of movies and shows and all that stuff. Just what does that mean? So, but before we get into all that, there is some news to talk about.
Yeah.
And legit news, meaning confirmed, which is a great thing, right?
Yeah.
I think the first thing is really what dropped today, which I think it might have. I've read it. I don't know if you read, Casey, but I actually read a couple things whereas the image possibly had leaked early. So it seems like they had to kind of fast track getting something out there. And what I'm talking about is Star Wars Squadrons, which is the next EA game that is dropping on consoles. Don't have a release date yet. I'm sure we'll get that. But the trailer for that is coming this Monday.
Yeah.
So what do you think or know of Star Wars Squadrons?
Well, the immediate thing I thought of was, could this be a recreation of the old N64 game Rogue Squadron? Would that be that? Because that would be awesome. Not the most original idea, but still awesome for nostalgia reasons. But from what I've read, the rumor is that it's mostly going to be a multiplayer space setting, dogfight setting, which makes a lot of sense given the image and the titles, But there might be a small campaign to go with it. So that's not much, really. There's really nothing confirmed other than what we officially got, which was the title and the trailer date and the image. But
right.
It's you have some characters on the poster there, the image, so you're led to believe that it will be a character-driven campaign at least. So, squadrons, or there'll be maybe it's a new squadron, maybe it's one we already know of. Could be Alphabet Squadron, who knows? Kind of a story. So, we really don't know anything yet, which is it's exciting, but it's always exciting to get a new Star Wars game, and and space battles are always pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about this over the last couple hours and trying to formulate what I could expect from this game. Here's where I'm going to go with it, and could be completely wrong. This is 100% just my opinion. I think I think even though Battlefront 1 and 2 are very popular games, you can't argue, I feel like in a way, that what we got out of Jedi Fallen Order was what everybody wanted, which was a campaign-driven, first-player, first-person perspective and a story that fully engulfs into the canon of Star Wars. I think that's what was popular about Battlefront 2, but of course, like you said, the complaints I think that came out of that was that it was too short. Like you were done when one night you were done playing that game, right?
Yes.
So I think they're going to take the best of Battlefront games, which are the multiplayer side of it. I think there will be a multiplayer aspect of this. But I think what they'll do, I think what they learned from Because what made Battlefront 2 even better is that you were able to do a second campaign that you were able to download later.
Yeah.
Right. It was the future aspect of Iden Versio. I think what they could do and they should do with this is with these characters you're seeing on here, because you're seeing a Rebel character, a Rebel pilot, and a TIE fighter pilot from the Empire. Something is with these characters. There's something going on there. I think what you could do is you could have a short campaign to begin with, but then be able to download like extra missions as you go. So each kind of DLC, right? The downloadable content is an extra campaign mission or something like that. So it's not fully story driven, but it's missions centered around this character.
Yeah.
And it's possible. I actually feel like it's possible the way that the artwork is done. I kind of get the sense that maybe this is the same character.
Well, and that kind of goes with what I was thinking of if it was Alphabet Squadron, if it was Erica Quell, but
it doesn't look like her though, even because they had some artwork of her that's out there. But you're right, Alphabet Squadron, but that's post. I mean, that's post. Was that post return?
Yeah, right. Around the Aftermath timeline. So you got the ships are and the aesthetic makes sense, but that to me would be too much like Battlefront, too much like Iden. So I don't. They would basically be making the same game if they went that route. If they told her origin, story, whatever again, essentially. If it was Erica Quell, but it's, I mean, looking at the ships, I mean, you got the whole alphabet there pretty much. You got X wings and Y wings, and I don't think I see a B wing there, but you have the U wing.
Yes,
and some capital ships there, so it's a good lineup of the TIE side of things, the TIE bombers and TIE Advance and all that stuff. So it's, I mean, that would be cool, and I can only think that I think the Xbox put this out. Yeah, Xbox website, which I'm sure it'll be. I would think it'd be other platforms too. It's just if it's going to be on these new systems with the newer graphics and all that stuff, I can only think that how far they can push the boundaries with this. Where thinking of like rendering times of the amount of ships you can have, think of the scale of the battles you can have nowadays with these types of games.
Right.
And PS5 just had their launch yesterday, and you saw all the games, and they were bragging about how now you can, like with the new Ratchet and Clank game, you can like have all these drastically different worlds you can jump to, but you can go through it and basically in real time now. The computer can quickly render out these thing. So it's like, what if we get a scale of the end of like the Rise of Skywalker fight? You have like thousands and thousands of ships.
Right.
You could potentially get that nowadays with the game. So I think the potential for at least the gameplay of what this can be, it could be incredible. I'm not holding my breath for the story aspect of it, but just the gameplay. I'm pretty excited about that part of it. Yeah, I mean, I like multiplayer. I don't play as much as I'd like to, but I mean, I just think back to the original Battlefront 2 game from way back when, and just thinking about multiplayer with that, going to space and fighting on the ground. It was pretty cool. That was a good time for Star Wars games. But so I mean, hopefully this will be good. I think it's not definitely. I don't think it's really a step in the right direction for Star Wars games, but again, it's a Star Wars game. It's going to be fun, and I'll play it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a step. It's one of my things was thinking about. I'm just surprised. I'm still just surprised how little games we've gotten. I mean, we've gotten a ton of mobile games, but I'm not really a mobile game player. I'm more of a console player. Yeah. And Battlefront was great when it first came out, but that was strictly just multiplayer.
Yeah.
I'm a campaign driven person, story driven person. So Battlefront 2 is great, Jedi Fallen Order is great, but it's just, when you think about it, those are the only two campaigns we've gotten besides the VR, which the VR is coming, starting to come. But it's been Disney's had this thing for 8 years now, almost, and we've only got 2 games and 1 VR game, so.
There's been promising games in development that have been canceled. So
yeah, well, 1313 was going to be a game changer.
Well, even more recent than that, there was another game that was going to be also kind of like an Uncharted game.
Yes.
That was more like a solo type based, smuggler type based game. So that got canceled. But yeah, it seems like there's just been, the rumors have been that it's just been hard for EA to kind of work with Disney in the sense of building stories, because it just the pipeline, the workflow of it all just takes so long, and the games, they just have to, they kind of have to get the story straight so they can start developing it.
I think with Jedi Fallen Order, I think those will actually, now that you have an established story, you can very much, like I said before, you can very much Assassin's Creed it a little bit, where you just take that character and just keep going with stories. Sure. I mean, you've already got the groundwork of the game already. You just kind of got to add to it. So I think the games will ramp up here coming out. Some other good news that came out, I think was fantastic, was the announcement of A Certain Point of View book coming for the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. This will be hitting bookshelves this coming November, and it will feature, again, 40 stories from 40 authors, very similar to the first book of Star Wars A New Hope. But what's so fantastic about this is that all participating authors are foregoing any compensation for writing their stories. Instead, the proceeds will be donated to First Book, which is a leading nonprofit that provides new books, learning materials, and other essentials to educators and organizations serving children in need. To further celebrate the launch of this book, both companies, alongside relationships with First Book, Penguin Random House will donate $100,000 to First Book, and Disney Lucasfilm will donate 100,000 children's books, valued at $1 million, to support First Book and their mission to provide equal access to quality education. So, right off the bat, it's a great cause. Great things to see from Del Rey, from Disney. But, we've already kind of celebrated the 40th anniversary. We're not getting this book till November 10th, which I'm a little upset about. I want this thing now.
Yeah, I know.
But, I think there was mixed reactions from the first book that came out. What's your feeling about that and this coming out?
Well, the original one, I for the most part loved the stories. Most of them, I was really into it. I mean, some of them, I don't know, either I just didn't connect with it too well. Not that they were bad, but some of them I just didn't connect with much. But again, for the most part, I really enjoyed it. There was some good ones with Obi-Wan on Tatooine, like the Tusken Raiders, the Jawa one with the Jawas. There's the cantina. There was some of the cantina that were pretty cool. So I love the concept of it, and that's why I was really excited. I was really kind of looking forward to this book being announced. I thought this was going to be announced like last year, or I guess last Celebration. We were kind of thinking that it was going to happen, but to come out this year. But thankfully, they were already planning on it. Very excited because obviously it's Empire Strikes Back. It's practically almost everybody's favorite movie. Or it's up there at least in everybody's list. So everybody's going to love it. I'm going to love it. And I think that has so much, we talked about in a previous episode about Empire. Like you said, we were celebrating it and how the movie itself is so much more complex and layered than A New Hope. Now, you have talking mainly about the legacy or the original characters, the legacy characters, of how much more complex they are in their arcs. Well, it's like it's just also chock full of so many other characters that with this book, it's going to give them a voice too, which is very exciting, and it's very fun. It's just so clever. Already someone was pointing out a scene, kind of making a joke and assuming we'll get a story about it, where you have the scene of Leia and Han on Hoth talking in one of the hallways, and they're saying like, as soon as kiss a Wookiee, not going to arrange that. Like that whole scene, you have a guy who walks right through Han and Leia as they're talking. And it kind of is kind of a weird thing, and so someone was like, I can't wait to see the story of that guy's point of view.
Yes,
of like just walking through and hearing them talking about their conversation and everything. Like I love that. I love seeing that. And obviously there was another character in Empire that has recently also come back of popularity. I always forget his name though. The guy who was carrying the ice cream bucket on Bespin.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're so excited to think about what these little stories are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I can only think we'll get one of Yoda, Yoda, his time on Dagobah. So it's just, or maybe it's the creature that was in the swamp on Dagobah.
Or maybe it's R2's.
R2, yeah. But typically they like to focus on, with the exception of the first book, we had one of Boba Fett, we had one of Obi-Wan, but most part it was small characters that you never even heard of. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. And the authors, there's already been, I think most of the 40 authors have already pretty much come out and said that they're working on it on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And there's so many good ones. I mean, a lot of them have written before on, not just the first book, but across Star Wars in general. But there's a big push to get new authors for this one. And it looks to be very promising, very exciting.
Yeah, I think for a long time, I think people expected this to be the tie-in to Project Luminous.
That's what I was thinking of, yes.
Yeah. Everybody thought, that's going to be the certain point of view from Empire.
Yeah.
But then that came out to be High Republic, and it's like, okay, well, maybe we're not getting a certain point of view from Empire. But I'm so glad they did this, because I truly really loved the first book of A New Hope. I tell you what, one of the best stories out of that to me was the very beginning with Captain Antilles, because again, one of the things I remember hearing after Last Jedi came out was, oh well, how did they track them in hyperspace from Rogue One to the beginning of A New Hope? Well, it explains it in that story, because they're leaking hyperfuel. They are able to track the hyperfuel. So it's like, oh man, that's great. But just getting his perspective of what they're doing was awesome. You do get Tarkin's perspective a little bit. That's
right.
There's some different stories with him and the Stormtroopers.
Yeah.
TK421, I think it is.
Yep.
And
droid.
The mouse droid. Yes. Yoda, like you said, Yoda and Obi-Wan have a great conversation about Leia being the one, not Luke. I mean, it's real to me. It was really good. Yes, there are a couple stories in there you could probably do without, but in the end, I thought that was a great book, and it doesn't destroy any kind of canon or anything like that. It's the stories that and I love how they do the who shot first.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because you had different takes, so you had different people that just like any crime scene, right? You don't. Yeah. Everybody has a different view of how it happened. Yeah. No, he hit first. No, he hit first. Yeah. No, they hit each other at the same time. It's like So I love it. I think it was really good. I'm looking forward to this. I'm gonna dive right into this when I get this because there is, like you said, Empire being it's my favorite movie of the entire saga. I think it's a lot of people's favorites. I think it's gonna change people's view about it a little bit even more, and just revisit and retell those stories from different angles. It's gonna be great. So November. You can go ahead and pre-order it now. November 10th is when it hits your bookshelves and audiobooks. So I'll go ahead and put that on my audio pre-order because I will listen to that as soon as that comes out. So big news there too. The only other thing, couple of little things I wanted to mention. I just tweeted it out today, Case. I think you saw it. They have officially updated the chronological order of Star Wars: The Clone Wars with the last season, season 7. And to some people's surprise, I'm sure, I was a little surprised, but season 7 does not go in chronological order. So according to the list now, season 7 actually starts with 705 in the Ahsoka arc. So 705, 6, 7, and 8, where Ahsoka meets the sisters. And, when we get reintroduced to her, if you're watching the season, you don't have Ahsoka through entire season 6, right? So this is her return arc. That's what actually starts off season 7, and then you go into the Bad Batch, which is the Bad Batch arc, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then, of course, you finish up with the Siege of Mandalore. So that is the entire chronological order now. Little surprised about the order there, season 7?
Yeah. And then just hearing you talk about it again, I'm kind of just trying to justify it because it just seems like, but why? Why would it be? Because you think, when you watch it in this chronological order, to me, it doesn't make difference if it were how it actually played out,
Right.
But then I just try to think of, well, when we saw Ahsoka in the Siege of Mandalore, I kind of got the sense a little bit that maybe there had been more time passed from both those Ahsoka arcs, and this kind of solidifies that.
Yeah.
Where it's now it really is separated by this whole other arc. So, timeline wise, it makes sense. I'm totally fine with it. But but then it's like, well, then why didn't they just do that? Well, to me, it's I think the pacing of the whole season works better the way they laid it out.
Yeah,
I think
that
I remember the arc to start with.
And I remember when Gone with the Trace starts, which is the first episode of Ahsoka Pack. Remember when they're leaving Coruscant, she flies by that cruiser that has Yularen and Anakin on it. And I remember a lot of people, even us, talking about it, like, wow, that's weird. So Anakin went from, I can't remember what planet they were on for the Bad Batch episodes. So he must have come right back from there, and then Ahsoka passed. But now that we know that didn't even happen yet.
Yeah.
They're leaving for that mission probably.
Yeah.
From there. So that makes sense. And like you said, and I think if you go back and look at previous, back before the show got canceled, if you look at episode numbering, I think the Ahsoka arc was actually supposed to be in season 6. So we weren't going to get a whole season without her. So these were technically supposed to take place definitely prior to Siege of Mandalore. So I think it's not surprising now that we see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little shocking when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like, oh, okay. Because again, from mid season 5 through season 6, it's all in order. And then all of a sudden that last change in season 7. So I'm not sure exactly, why they did this, but they did it the way they did it, but it's good that they put it in order now. The only thing I wish they would do is I still wish they would put the additional content in this order, like Dark Disciple.
Yeah.
And is there any other canon material besides that now?
The Son of Dathomir.
Yes, in the Son of Dathomir comic.
Wait, so they took those off?
Yeah, it's not on this
Huh.
chronological list. This chronological list is simply the episodes, the animated series. So those are not on the list anymore. But you can pretty much figure out where those go. But that's it. So it's on StarWars.com under the Clone Wars series. You can go find that list there. And then there are. I just wanted to mention a couple Twitter polls I put out there. I thought this was a little interesting, just to kind of throw out there. But about a week ago, I put out a Twitter poll about if it was up to you, Case, to produce. And I don't know what you voted on this, to produce a Disney Plus series live action between 3 and 4. Which character would you create the show around? And I put 3 options up there: Ahsoka, Maul, and Vader. Which one did you choose, or which one would you go with?
I can't remember which one I chose.
I chose Vader. And I've talked extensively on there.
Vader. I think gosh. I think I chose Maul. It's like I could have either chosen Maul or Ahsoka, just because Maul, I don't know if I want a show centered around him. I definitely think he needs to be, him and Crimson Dawn need to be kind of the villains of a show.
Yeah,
we need to bridge that gap. But I didn't necessarily want a show where the main character is the villain. But Ahsoka, would have been my right up there, my other answer, just because it's just Ahsoka, and we need, again, to bridge the gap, and we need more Ahsoka.
Yeah. Well, 50% of the votes went with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And you had 30 with Darth Vader and 20 with Maul. So when I ran that poll, we did get there was one of the reactions or comments back was, hey, I would rather have done a new character, and maybe some other time period. So so I ran a different poll later, and I said, okay, if it was up to you to produce a live action Star Wars series between 6 and 7, the 30-year gap there, which character would you create a show around? I did put 3 character options in a fourth. Ahsoka again, Boba Fett, if he survived, Thrawn, and then a new character. So which would you do in that era?
I'm pretty sure I chose new character for that one.
Yeah. I chose Ahsoka.
Yeah, well, if I had to choose the 2 time periods with Ahsoka, I would choose the sequel trilogy era, or like that gap, that 30-year gap with Ahsoka, definitely. But if I had to choose Ahsoka or a new character, I'm just ready for new characters.
Yeah, yeah. Well, new characters took about 45% of that vote. Ahsoka was second. Thrawn was third, actually. Boba Fett last with only 8%. So good polls there to get kind of the sense of what people are thinking out there. They want some new characters, I think, and or they want to see Ahsoka in live action. I think that's
but because for a lot of people, she is a new character.
Yes, that's
for the
true.
mainstream. For a lot of the mainstream Star Wars, she is new, especially as in the live action format. I mean, it's just I definitely want the story tied up with Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra, and Thrawn, and I just kind of feel like, well, that's got to be animation, right? But it's like I would take live action if they decided to wrap that story up. Live action, that would be amazing.
Amazing. So that's it with the news and kind of that Twitter poll there. We will start now talking about overall where we are now with Star Wars and our show. Look, 300 episodes. We started this thing seven years ago, right? 2013. It's been, I think life, I think both of us would agree, life has gone by very, very quickly.
Yeah.
With both of our families growing, and for those of you that are new to us, And thank you for
Welcome.
joining us. Yeah, welcoming. Casey and I are family, so we've known each other prior to even starting the show, and we've just we just love Star Wars, and I think as we look back and chime in, Case, whenever you want to, but as I look back at all the episodes we've done, I remember when we first started this venture, when we decided, okay, we talk about Star Wars all the time, let's just do a podcast about it. I remember thinking like, okay, well, a good format for us to do would be to, help fans understand these characters a little bit more, these locations, and so we did a lot of profiling in our episodes. But this was prior to the whole new canon that got developed, right? So we were doing a lot of those. So if you go back and listen to our first, I think
the first year of show, but first,
I think it was 60 episodes. We profiled somebody or some place or a technology or a
organization or
starship
something.
Or an organization. Yeah, it was several things. In fact, I was breezing through them, and I think I remember the only thing or person that we did that isn't canon now. Now, there's stories in some of the people that we did that's not canon now, like Mon Mothma and Leia. But there was one character. Do you know what I'm talking about? One character we profiled that isn't canon.
Yeah, that's a Garm Bella Bliss.
Garm Bella Bliss.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is it's not in canon, but
it is. I so expected him to pop up at some point. Actually, I kind of expected him to pop up in Rogue One.
Yeah, we talked. Then we kind of thought maybe it's Saw Gerrera. Maybe Saw Gerrera's kind of that guy, but no, not really.
Not really, but no.
But yeah, there's a lot of those characters though in the old EU that people kind of just assumed they're so good. They would pop in, and we've got we got that with Thrawn and some other characters, but like no Mara Jade, no Garm Bella Bliss, no. There's a lot of those.
Yes. So, so back then when we did that, and then what I said was 60 episodes. It was episode 62 actually that we decided to change our formatting. And that was because of the announcement of the new canon. The announcement came that new books were coming, new comics were coming because Marvel was coming back to Disney. And they announced that everything from then on was going to be in the same timeline, and that's when Legends was born. So that's when we decided, okay, well, we can't profile much anymore because we don't know if it's not canon anymore.
Yeah.
At that point, it was the movies and Clone Wars was it. That was the only thing that was canon. So we then just changed it up to where we started really just focusing on all the news that was coming out and, of course, still trying to bring topics and conversations, unique conversations here between us and between guests and stuff like that. So just real quick for me, some of the episodes that really – looking back, I remember it was episode 82, and we called it the 88, and that was the teaser, the 88-second teaser that came out with Force Awakens. I just remember because it came out. I think it was Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah,
and we had food. We sat down Thanksgiving together, but we had so much to talk about. About that first 88, so that was I remember the feeling of watching it and talking about it, and everybody obviously was talking about it, but such a good and we just did an episode just on that teaser. I think it was only like 20 minutes or something like that, but some stuff like that I remember. Of course, the Celebration shows that we've done. We did one in Orlando and we did one in Chicago. we are hoping to do one in Anaheim. I don't think that's going to happen, but but it's a great experience. I feel like actually the other day, in case I was cleaning out my closet a little bit, and I pulled the program out from Celebration Chicago, and I actually had not looked through that. I picked them up whenever we were there, but I hadn't looked through it, so I paged through it, and of course, there we were, our time slot. It said Inside the Force, and it's just incredible to think that we're part of that convention in some small way. Not knowing, I just never had thought about that when we first started this thing. That we would actually have our name on a banner at Celebration, and I know there's other shows there, but it's fantastic and very honoring to be a part of that. I don't know what else, you got any. What do you got? What stands out in your mind over these past 7 years?
Just the time of leading up to episode 7 was so surreal. Definitely the 88 second teaser. But then I remember I had to look it up real quick too what number. So episode 57 was when they announced the cast, and that was the picture. It was a photo. Yeah. And I was in college. I was still living in Versailles, but it was like I think it must have been a weekend because it happened, and then I just remember immediately running over to your house. Yeah. Since at the time I lived in the same neighborhood, and we recorded a special edition episode, and that was just the picture of that was so exciting.
That's all we got, right? Yeah.
Oh, so exciting! We were like nitpicking it to death, figuring out
who was sitting where.
Yeah, Daisy really sitting here in between, so she's got to be the daughter. It was so fun. It was so fun. Yeah, and it was definitely a great time for a Star Wars podcast to kind of hit the ground running as we did. And then all of our big benchmark episodes, like you just mentioned with the Celebration, and then I think we mentioned in a previous episode, I think episode 200 was the one where we reviewed the Last Jedi trailer with a big group. Yes. Is our biggest episode in terms of guests, to date, and that was a lot of fun having all those different voices on the show. So there's and all the times we've interviewed Tom Kane a couple of times, so we've had some lucky breaks there, and I think it's just been a fun, wild ride so far. And 300 episodes. I don't think there are many shows that have crossed that barrier yet. Like a handful. I think I think it could be wrong, but I think it's only been a handful that have.
There's been. I've seen a couple. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of podcasts really boomed kind of around the time we did too, and there's tons of us. There's tons of Star Wars podcasts out there.
There's new ones every day popping.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great ones. So I'm glad that we've been able to hang out this long.
Yeah, and I do have it written on my notes here about the hypes that we've led. I feel like, I feel like between me and you, the hype for 7, was at an all-time high, and I remember constantly talking about everything that came out and leading up to that episode. But I gotta be honest, I feel like in Star Wars and across the board, there was unimaginable hype for episode 8 because of the success of 7, $2 billion box office. I mean, it was, you had some people that didn't like it, but the majority of fans loved episode 7. Could not wait for 8. I loved that year because we did a bunch of commentaries leading up to that. And you can go to our YouTube channel and watch those commentaries. And those were a lot of fun because we were breaking down those movies. We didn't just watch those movies and talk about that movie. We talked about it in ways. How is it contributing to the Skywalker saga? How is it tying to episode 8 at all? Or what storylines, what pieces of these movies are going to carry those themes throughout?
Yeah.
And it was really fun doing one of those each month and having a guest on and talking about that. And then, of course, I'd never forget walking out of that movie, not sure how I felt about it,
It's weird. It was weird.
It was really weird. It was
Yeah.
a weird time. And I think that really changed the way were hyped for episode 9,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just strange how much Star Wars means to us. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and say I hate anything of Star Wars, but there are good things, there are bad things, and it's just great to be able to sit here and talk about them for one, and to really break it down and because if I didn't, here's the thing, to be honest, if I wasn't sitting here with you talking about episode 8
Mm-hmm.
or having other friends and guests on here to talk about it, I may have, if I never was doing this podcast, if I was just a fan and I walked out of 8, I would probably, whatever feeling I had about 8, that would be it. I probably would have never watched it again. I would have just moved on and waited for 9 and went and saw 9, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to talk about it and constantly critique it, it does change your perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
And you find things that you like about it or somebody else that likes about it that puts a valid point out there that allows you to start changing your mind about things. And and I'll tell you, my feeling about it is better than when I walked out about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great, but there are definitely a lot of good things about that movie that I didn't really appreciate when I first walked out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So this has really done that for me anyway. I feel like talking about these stories, breaking them down, and really analyzing these characters and these writers and directors and why they're doing the things they do, it really does help. And to me, that's what listening to us or any Star Wars podcast, to me, that's what you're mainly going there for. I mean, you're going there for probably some breaking news and up-to-date information, but to get perspective on these stories that we're getting, as a fan, it really, as long as you're willing to listen and see where everybody's coming from, you can make your own decisions after that. But it should help you see certain points of view, right?
Yeah.
It's always good to get certain different points of view of stories.
Yeah, it's people who kind of didn't like Last Jedi, which, I was one of those people that walked out and just didn't know how I felt about it. I liked it fine. I didn't quite know what I didn't like about it, and then it took a long time to figure out what I didn't like about it. But overall, yes, I still like it. And I think that's what I feel like I've just over the years. I think I have matured as a consumer of just entertainment in general, where it's just you have to have conversations about this stuff to figure out why you like it, why you don't like it, and it's for some people it's the bottom of their list, Last Jedi. Some people it's the top of their list, which is awesome. It's totally fine. That's what's great about Star Wars is it is a diverse franchise in terms of your prequel trilogy is very different in terms of a lot of its storylines. It's very political. The original trilogy isn't. It's very adventure based. The sequel trilogy is kind of it's adventure based, but it's pushing the boundaries in different directions. So it's just you have your different wants and needs as a Star Wars fan, and you just cling to what matches that. And I think that's perfectly fine. And there's things about Last Jedi maybe you can. It's basically my point is like it's hard to say objectively if something is good or bad in Star Wars. Right. It's all based on just what you connect with and what is your calling in Star Wars. And I do think Filoni hit the nail on the head. Like if there is anything that's close to an objective core element of what Star Wars is. Filoni said it in the gallery show about hope and family. There's
Yep.
adventure, there's hope, and there's family. It's a group of people that learn to love one another, be friends, and loyalty, friendship, family, all that stuff. Good and evil, all that. So, which is a lot of stories, a lot of franchises do that, but Star Wars, at least I feel like, is top of the list in terms of
Yes.
announcing those themes. So,
Right.
uh, and that's why we're still talking about it, and that's why we're still here, is because of that. So, and I think and I think Star Wars will always be that. And yeah, sequel trilogy, man, it's so divisive. It's so Last Jedi. I think with time, Last Jedi is going to be even more widely regarded as a good Star Wars movie. So it'll take time, just like with the prequels. Now I feel like everybody with the prequels is come
Yeah.
around. It's Queen's Peril is out now, and it's
Yep.
gosh, it's making me love the prequel era even more. And so a lot of people have kind of come around to it. So it's I don't think I know a lot of people have kind of tossed out Star Wars because of Disney or for whatever reason, and that's their opinion. That's fine, but I personally think that Star Wars is still moving forward. It's just changing. It's just
Yeah.
it's being what the culture kind of needs it to be, which is it reflected culture back in the 70s. It's reflecting culture now, and I think it will always adapt to reflect the culture and to hopefully inspire it as well, which is what all entertainment should do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think some of my other, real quick, I wanted to say some of my other episodes that I just kind of jotted down that I remember getting some good conversations with was I really liked 166 when we talked about Carrie Fisher. She
Yeah.
had just passed. And that was a really good emotional episode that we kind of reflected on her. I remember 216, which was the Rebels finale.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, 231 was when after we found out Clone Wars was coming back. The trailer that dropped at Comic-Con that year. I remember we talked a lot about that. So, just some just great conversations over the years. Like I said, I remember the hype for 7, 8, 9, but I also remember the hype for the first Star Wars story, Rogue One, the first film out of this thing. And I remember we didn't get a trailer till really late.
Yeah.
After Episode 7 came out, I think it was April of that year. So like 7 months before the movie came out, we finally got a trailer, and so I just felt really good about where Lucasfilm was going with these Star Wars stories, and I think Rogue One did really well, and it was so well done. And I felt like a lot of people felt that way. Again, I think I'll always say where they messed up with Solo is they put it out in May of that year and not December. But I like Solo also.
Yeah, I mean, Solo, I was so nervous about it leading, as soon as we heard about it was about Solo, then when we found out about Alden being cast, I kept getting nervous just because, and then again, this is where I feel like I've grown, where I feel like I was nervous for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I was worried that the continuity in terms of, it's not Harrison Ford. It's not. And Alden, you can make him look so much like Harrison Ford. Obviously, I want him to own the character in his own way. It's a younger Han Solo, so obviously it should be a little different. But yeah, I would feel like I was nervous for the wrong reasons because I walked out of Solo just absolutely loving it. It was so fun. I was on the edge of my seat the entire Kessel Run. sequence was very good for me, and I love
Yeah.
Alden. I want Alden
Yeah.
back.
I
I
know.
think
I
he
think a
needs to
lot of
be.
people do.
I think he needs to be that era Han Solo, and yeah, I'm excited about it. So I mean, bottom line is I'm excited for how Star Wars and Disney will push and how it will change. I mean, as long as they keep to a core theme and a heart of what it has always been, they can clothe it with different things and different um, characters, actors.
Mm-hmm.
Let's sneeze.
Yeah.
Uh, so it is exciting. I wish the only thing that the way Disney changed in the sense of how they put on hold or canceled certain projects, films. Like we were told about the Boba Fett movie or
Mm-hmm.
the Obi-Wan movie. It was always kind of under the dark, and now we've got a little bit more information about what could have been. Thankfully, we're getting an Obi-Wan show. Uh,
Yeah.
and Boba Fett may come in Mandalorian season 2. So who knows about that? But it's little things like that where it's just the fans definitely want certain things, and I think you need to cater to it a little bit. I think there's definitely a way to do it without being 100% fan service, and I feel like Star Wars can give a little bit more fan service than what they've been doing, but
Yeah.
I think Marvel has a perfect combination of fan service versus just amazing storytelling. But like Obi-Wan, it's like everybody's always wanted it, but they decided not to do it. And same thing
Yeah.
with Boba Fett. But again, we are getting Obi-Wan, so it's very thankful, very happy about that. But for the most part, yeah, Disney's, I think, the perfect move for Star Wars. I think they'll
Mm-hmm.
push it in the right direction moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're kind of touching on that, but before we get a deep dive into that, I think, and I don't know if you can do this, but I wanted to just mention, by far to me, as I look back at all these memories of the last 7 years, there's still one that just stands out. And I'll never, the rest of my life, forget watching that trailer in the reveal of the Rise of Skywalker at Celebration.
Mm-hmm.
In that room at main stage there. I remember being a little bummed that we didn't get into the main room,
Yeah.
but I felt like it was better where we were because we were just wrapped with. I mean, it looked like a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
Jammed in this room, this convention room, right there by the main stage. We stood there for about an hour, just watching the screens, and just the excitement and the electric from everybody, not just us, not just the 5 or 6 of us that were there, but the reveal. It was just perfect fandom, and everybody was on just a big high that week and the weekend about the reveal, and I don't know that just, of all the celebrations I've been to, of all the stuff we talked about and everything, I mean, that just always stands out to me as one of my favorite memories.
Yeah, it's definitely I definitely feel like you were a part of something. Like you had a great shared experience with everybody else there, and especially when you look back at the photos that we talked about this a couple of times. The photo that Star Wars put out of that crowd that we were in, it's shoulder to shoulder on the entire floor, which is a gigantic floor. So yes, there are thousands of people there, shoulder to shoulder, looking up at the screen and saying same expression. So it's such a weird thing to look at now, considering the time that we're in. But it's something that you really miss. You miss that shared experience that Star Wars provides, and I think we'll definitely get there again. But it's again, that's what kind of keeps us going. That's why we're still here. Is because it's because we're allowed to share this experience with each other and with the people that we talk to. So
Yeah.
it's been a blast.
So Star Wars, Lucasfilm, you kind of touched on a little bit. It's been almost 8 years. This year will be the 8th year that Lucasfilm has been run by Disney. We've gotten 5 films. The Return, a Soul, two individual animated series with Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Resistance. You got the Return of the Clone Wars to finish that out. You got a first live action show with Mandalorian. You got numerous comics, books, games.
Get the small form animation.
Yes,
Forces
you do.
of Destiny, all that stuff.
That's right. Forces of Destiny and
The
Galaxy of
rollout.
Adventures that's coming
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of content, and naturally you knew that was going to happen with the purchase from Disney, because Disney's all about content and getting everything out there. You got Galaxy's Edge, which is incredible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, what now that let's take it one stage at a time. Let's look at the movies. Where I guess it's look. They haven't lost any money on the movies. Let's just be clear. Solo may have lost money, but overall they're in the black. Where do you feel like, where are we going to go with the movies? We keep thinking and hearing that Ryan Johnson's got movies coming out. We know Taika's got a movie that he's working on. We've got 3 release dates now. Every other year starting December of 2022. What's going to happen? Where are the movies going to go now that the Skywalker saga is apparently over with?
Well, that's one of the things too, where I've been kind of let down a little bit, where you think the direction's obvious, but then like it might be an original story, new characters, new bad guys, new everything, but then it might be the rehashed. Let's put a new skin on the Empire and call it something else, a new super weapon, that kind of a thing, which started to get a little tiring. But I'm gonna keep being optimistic and think that the movies now, especially with the end of the sequel trilogy, and yes, I loved it, but there was a lot of upset about the direction in general the trilogy went, and all the people loved it. It's like it's like, okay, let's put this type of Star Wars conflict to bed, where it's Rebels versus Empire and that kind of scenario. Let's take it. Let's do a completely different type of conflict. Don't know what that is. I mean, it's a pretty standard story that, again, a lot of franchises do, but there's something new out there, and whether it's the Taika one that's going to start this new era, or Ryan Johnson that's going to start this new era, they're perfectly capable creatives that I truly believe that with ownership of the story, that they'll be able to take it into a new direction. So the next 3 movies, the theatrical movies, are going to spearhead the next era of Star Wars. So I think it's going to be different. I think it's going to look different. I mean, it's going to obviously feel like Star Wars, but aesthetically, in terms of what the characters are, who they are, what they look like, how they behave, even in a sense, or the types of villains we'll get to see, the types of conflicts. I think it's going to seem a little different. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that will look like, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it will reflect kind of what's going on in the world, but also try to influence the culture, and those are exciting possibilities.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think I don't know. I part of me feels like they could be still talking about maybe doing some kind of cohesive storyline through numerous films.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that they're not separated stories. Like,
Yeah, like a new trilogy, right? That's what you're saying?
well, not, yeah, maybe, but I mean, I kind of hate to say it, but it's very much like the MCU,
Yeah,
where there's different movies, but they're all kind of heading towards the
yes.
same ending. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of, I mean, I think you have stories that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you take the Hussein Vong,
Absolutely.
move that further into the future,
Mm-hmm.
and lead up into that conflict. You know,
Yeah,
with numerous stories.
yeah, because you get it is a big force. It's it's a war. It's obviously
Yes.
two big forces. One that seems scarier and bigger. But it's not quite the same as Empire at all. It's
No.
not at all really
Well,
the
and
same.
you can modify them a little bit and change them a little
Sure.
bit,
Yeah.
but it's truly a galactic war where they're
Mhm.
coming from a different galaxy,
Yeah.
and you're got this galaxy has to rise up and fight that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Totally.
could be a massive
Hmm.
10 movie series,
Hmm.
that does that. I think that's where that's where you should go. Now, I don't know if they'll go that route. I don't know. I don't know. I think they've got to hire somebody, and maybe that's why those Feige conversations of happening with Kevin Feige.
Hmm.
Those conversations, maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're bringing Taika in and Ryan Johnson in and somebody else and saying, "Look, this is what we're going to build out. Here's a story you can tell, or give me a story that you can tell, and we'll see where it fits." But that could be that could be why they're doing those things, and I think that would help bring people back into the good graces as far as the films go. But because if I think there's a danger in just putting out one movie and living off that one movie, because
Yeah.
I just don't know because people would just want to know where it's going and what's
Hmm.
next. And if you're
Hmm.
not hinting out what's next and you're not talking about what's next, then I think it
Yeah.
could get saturated.
Hmm.
Now, shows, I think it's easy to talk about because I think Disney Plus is where this is going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're just going to get more and more series-based Star Wars content. We've got one right now with Mandalorian that's doing very, very well. You've got Cassian coming. You got Obi-Wan coming. You got a possible Ahsoka series coming. There's rumors about a Boba Fett series. I mean, I think there's going to be... I think at some point in the very near future, within a couple years, probably 2022, I think it's very possible there's half a dozen series on Netflix or on Disney Plus that is
Hmm.
just Star Wars live action.
Yeah, like I said, we're already almost there. We got 4.
I know,
Um,
but with those
yeah.
being multiple seasons, and then you got
Yeah.
other shows coming in,
Mhm.
I just think there's going to be a big library of series, and I think that's what's going to. I really truly think that could be what keeps Star Wars going.
Yes. Yeah.
Is the Disney Plus stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. I think I've said this before, where hopefully they'll keep pushing the format of that in terms of longer episodes. Just for the sake of, just for selfish reasons of wanting more content. Really, I think Mandalorian's been great overall. It's just short as all. It's just a personal thing of like, oh man, I just wish there was just more story. So I think they just get a bigger budget, I guess. Maybe that's all it is. It's just their budget. So, they'll, with the success, they'll be given more. They can do more, longer episodes, maybe even longer seasons. Maybe they'll do 13 episode seasons, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
I'm definitely, I just can't even put to better words how excited I am for the Obi-Wan show. I think everybody is. I think it's just,
Yeah.
it's a breath of fresh air of This is something that we really have been wanting. Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan in this time period. You know, it's got and you get great talent creating the show. So it's such a recipe of, I feel like, of a success for me. And I think if they just keep rolling with that, just bringing, the gallery show has been great to watch, just because talking Jon Favreau, floating, talking about how they were grabbing these talented filmmakers, and that's how they're going to keep doing it, is bringing fresh and unique new talent, new to Star Wars. A lot of these guys have most of them pretty much have been around for a while filmmaking, but like Bryce Dallas Howard, that was our first thing. So as long as they keep vetting and bringing good new talent to Star Wars, you're right, it will definitely stay afloat. And Disney Plus is the best place to try out those new people. And I mean, again, I think it's been very much a success so far with these new blood.
I think the one advice I would give them going forward with it is what I think they should do, and I actually think that this might happen, this is where, so in the theaters, again, I think that is where fans expect a bigger story told. Yeah. Now, Disney Plus, I think that's where I think you can try, and I think we're going to get Star Wars films on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But that's where you can launch a series out of that film. So if you wanted to test a character like you're kind of talking about, that's where you would do it. So if you did a Boba Fett movie on Disney Plus, and all of a sudden people are like screaming for more Boba Fett, well, there you go. There's your series, right? Ahsoka is kind of that too. You almost feel like maybe they should do a Ahsoka film and then spin off a show. But I think they're going the route of Mandalorian to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we're going to get films on Disney Plus, and those could be, to me, again, that's my advice. I think those are good ways to gauge a character, gauge a story, and then push it out as a series from there. Now, I'm still curious right now as far as what the next animated series is going to be. I can't imagine them not doing another animated series.
Oh yeah,
but I think. I mean, we do you still believe? They've had to have been working on something, don't you think?
It's just how he's always been, Filoni, and the animation department.
But he has been doing Mandalorian, so I don't know if he's got time.
But, there's been so many fun rumors about what they've already been working on about Rebels season 2 or I mean Rebels sequel kind of a show. But yeah, I feel like he can still pull it off. I think, because he maybe it's more of the role that he had on Resistance, but continuing kind of the Rebel characters that Filoni started. So, and that's kind of what I thought. I think Filoni's role is role he was given, in terms of he could be supervising multiple shows, and still making sure,
should be in a way.
Yeah, making sure that they all are fitting within this realm of what it means to be a Star Wars story. So, I mean, maybe he's working towards that. Maybe this is the year where they try out. He's got Mandalorian, he's got 1 or 2 animated shows. Which.
Do you think that? Do you think that a animated series that come out from now on, do you think that they are Disney Plus exclusive, or will we see an animated series back on cable channels like Disney Channel or XD, or are they only going to be on Disney Plus?
I I wonder if they'll stick with kind of the same format that they did, at least, well, like a modified thing, like with Resistance. It was definitely a younger audience. It was the Disney Channel is definitely for me. I think it was a different type of story than Clone Wars or Rebels. A lot more kid friendly. So I think that if it's that type of content and that type of audience, I think they'll probably keep it on the cable channel. My only hope is that they'll do a simultaneous kind of premiere, or maybe like a day after, put it on Disney Plus. That's what I was hoping with Resistance season 2. But now it's finally on Disney Plus, so I'm trying to catch up now. But I like to. So if they put it on cable, I just want it to be almost immediately afterwards on Disney Plus, because I don't have cable. So I'm hoping that it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I think they could. I think if they do it, I think they're gonna. It would be one of them things where it'll make the full run on cable first, and then come on, because some of those DC shows do that, right? They at the very next day after the season finale, it gets put on Netflix. So I think that could be the model that they go with going forward with these animated shows. I think there's going to be definitely animated shows that are exclusive to Disney Plus.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think they pop another one off maybe on Disney Channel, or you almost think like Disney, because they have Disney Channel, Disney XD, and Disney Junior still. It's like, man, why hang on to all those? Get rid of them now that you got Disney. Just have Disney Channel and Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So that's series-based stuff. So all the publications and games, I mean, we kind of hit on the games. I think the games that you just got to put out more of them.
They got to find a good rhythm.
Yeah. Now, I feel like the books and the comics, I feel like they're at a steady pace. Like I don't think, in fact, I think this year, at first for a while there, I was thinking it doesn't seem like we're getting too many books, but now there's several novels coming out this year. You got a steady flow of content from comics, especially they've been off because of COVID for a while, but you've got 3 or 4 comic series at one time going on, which I think is plenty to keep people interested, because it's so hard, because you have DC, Marvel, and then of course you have Star Wars and all these other. I remember when I was really in the comics a few years ago, it was hard to read all my DC comics in 1 week, and then it's hard. So I'm glad they only have 3 or 4 for me to read, but I feel like those stories and those publications have been at a pretty good pace. I don't think you really have to change that up a little anymore.
The comics for me have been a great substitute for the kind of the big tentpole movies in terms of the scale of it. Like it's comic book, so it's visual. It's way more visual. So you're able to see and do more on practically the same level as a movie, and to me that's a lot of fun. So the comic books, for the pure adventure spectacle of it, like I think it's perfect, and I love pretty much everything they put out. The books, I've been talking a lot about kind of Star Wars reflecting and influencing culture a little bit, but like I think the books have been the best medium for Star Wars so far, in terms of pushing what Star Wars can and should be. I think, and the guys over at Utini Living Forest podcast, they celebrate this all the time. And I'm trying to get better at getting back more into reading like I used to be, but it's just reading Queen's Peril, then reading some of the other ones right now. It's like Star Wars is definitely, the Star Wars authors out there are definitely, they know what I think Star Wars kind of needs to become for the younger audience, because it's, that's what Star Wars is mainly geared towards, is the younger audience. It's introducing them to these worlds and kind of maturing them through these stories. And so you have a bunch of authors like Zoraida Cordova, who wrote Crash of Fate, and you have E.K. Johnston. It's like these authors who write a lot of young adult novels. That's the audience of Star Wars, is
Yeah.
young adult, and
Yes.
they know exactly what kind of stories that audience needs and what those kind of readers are looking for in life, and they're turning to these stories for guidance, for connection, and I think that's what's going to keep that audience, that age group connected, or these books, or these authors. And so that's why I'm very excited about the new Empire 40th anniversary book, and bringing these new authors into the Star Wars fold, because it's just going to keep that. It's going to introduce new readers to Star Wars, and it's going to keep that audience big. And it's going to So I'm saying that also for High Republic. I'm very optimistic about High Republic. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, but I'm very optimistic with what it can mean for the just for the whole franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, very well said. I think you're right. I think the authors of all these books, I'm not sure they've gotten all the credit that they deserve.
Not at all, yeah. Mm-hmm.
With some of these novels that have come out over the last few years. I look back again. I look back at Claudia Gray, which obviously is probably maybe the most popular one, with Lost Stars and Master and Apprentice.
Yep.
You got Christy Golden with Dark Disciple, John Luceno with Tarkin.
James Luceno? Yeah.
I'm sorry, James Luceno. You've got so many good stories out there. And I barely... and E.K. Johnston, of course, with Queen's Shadow, Queen's Peril, Ahsoka. I mean, you got fantastic books out there, both on the young adult, and, of course, adult. And, of course, you got kids' novels. I'm not reading them, but there's plenty of those out there, the junior novels. I think I truly do believe they've gotten a good pulse of the publishing side. And Lucasfilm Publishing, Disney Publishing, Marvel, they're all working together. They're all doing good things. Comics, like you said, to be able to fill the gaps between episodes 4 and 5, and now they're doing 5 and 6. It's just phenomenal to be able to. You can now read and watch that entire era, of the original trilogy. At one point when they finish this up, but okay. So then, with all these mediums and all these things that we've talked about, that we know about are coming out, I mean, look through your crystal ball a little bit. I mean, 8 years from now, we're 8 years in. 8 years from now, where is Star Wars at this point? So we're at 2028 now. I mean, where do you think this is? Where do you think Disney takes this?
I think it's going to look pretty different. Again, in terms of, all new characters. I think at that point, you're going to have a whole new generation really strongly connected to a whole brand new cast of characters. I feel like, the Skywalker saga being over really does mean that the Skywalker saga is over. Like, 8 years from now, the hero's not going to be a great-great-grandchild, of a Skywalker or a Solo or Palpatine. I think it's going to be new names, new bloodlines, new lineages. I think maybe they won't even be a family thing. It'll just be a like what kind of people want Rey to be, like, her own person, not connected to anything. So I think in that sense, I think it's going to be very different. And I think Star Wars is going to get more inclusive, more diverse. I think it's going to be reflective of the audience that's consuming it more often, and kind of bring more voices, different voices into it, so that again, you'll bring new readers into the mix that will find new connections, and I think it'll only grow in that sense. And I think it'll be because of the authors, and like you said, I think it'll be because of Disney Plus, and bringing this new talent to bring in fresh stories, fresh perspectives of Star Wars. I think that's the medium. Those two other mediums that will really push, and then I think it'll trickle up into the movies. I think the movies will eventually, maybe it'll take a few years. Maybe then immediately the next movie may look completely different. So I think 8 years from now, 10 years from now, it's going to be pretty big, and it's going to be. I think it'll still be the top, the top franchise of the world. I think it'll, as long as it does adapt, I think Star Wars will still be just globally regarded, and accepted.
Yeah. Well, I was just about to ask you before I answer it is can it possibly get any more popular than what it is now?
So I don't know, like in terms, I don't think it'll get any more known. I think it's already reached every corner of the earth. So I think everybody pretty much already knows about it. I think people will come around to it more. I think some of the fans that have, become lost and just hurt by Star Wars, I'm hopeful that they'll come back around.
Yeah.
And some won't, some never will, and that's fine. But I think for those fans that feel hurt by Disney for some of the choices they would make, I think hopefully 10 years from now those relationships will be mended. And yeah, I think in terms of popularity in that sense, like being loved, I think it will grow. Because the past few years it's been so divisive, and so I think they've lost a lot of fans and gained a lot of fans. It's been so different.
Yeah. What I'm afraid of, and I don't know if you thought about this, but let's just say 10 years from now, 8 to 10 years from now, we've got all this content that we're going to get. Is it possible that the original trilogy kind of gets forgotten? Or does the Skywalker saga kind of get forgotten? Is there a time whenever we look at Star Wars and there's parts of it that we don't include? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you ever feel like, or will it always be, when you talk about Star Wars, it's all of this? It's not just this. You know what I mean? That's what I'm afraid of a little bit.
Well, I've thought about that, but I haven't been afraid of that. I think maybe 8-10 years from now is early for something like that to happen. I don't think that the Skywalker.
I say that because think about my oldest daughter's 10.
Yeah.
When she's 20.
Yeah.
And she will been like right now, the only thing she really knows about Star Wars truly is Rey and her story, Mandalorian. That's kind of that's her Star Wars right now. Mm-hmm. Those 3 movies. Like I know she knows about Luke and Leia, but 10 years from now, I don't think she will have remembered them, really. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Is it Lucasfilm's job? Is it their job to still tell stories about those characters, even though we're not going to get any movies about them? But do we still have to keep telling those stories of the original characters in order to keep that legacy alive? Because I feel like you have to. I feel like if right now, if you tell me that we're not going to get a Luke story or a Han story or a Leia story for 8 years the next 8 years, there will be a generation of people that have no idea who those characters are.
Yeah. No, I think the Skywalker saga will always be remembered. It'll just, again, 10 years from now, I think it'll still be. I mean, because think about it, we're still going to get, for the next 5 years, we're going to at least get stories still within this time period. with the shows and
Yeah.
just the shows alone. The next few years we're going to get in the same time period. So Obi-Wan is surrounded by Skywalkers, and then Cassian is right there in the middle, and Mandalorian is still in the Imperial kind of. So it's all still there, but we're still getting books, we're still getting comics, all this stuff, and I think we'll still get that for like comic books. I think the Skywalkers could live in the comic books forever, and the novels
absolutely.
forever. But for like the shows and the movies, I would say after maybe this, we're planning for another 3 movies. Maybe that includes Rey. Maybe it doesn't. Probably won't.
Yeah.
But I think by year 10, we will be definitely movie wise and television show wise, or Disney Plus show wise. There won't be any stories about Skywalkers. I don't think it's forgotten. I think we're just telling new stories.
Right.
I think you can still continue the legacy. Like, let's say Rey is a master of her academy. So it's like her students.
She's not a Skywalker, though.
Yeah.
Well, she is, but she's not.
Her students. So it's just like that. It's just the connections there. I mean, you're gonna move so far past the timeline eventually to where they,
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be forgotten, because think about in our own culture, our real life culture, it's like stories that are centuries years old that were hugely important are still relevant in some form or fashion today. So I think the movies, the original movies, even the prequel trilogy, even the sequel trilogy, everything will still matter. It'll just, that's the era. We're living in that era now. 20 years from now, it'll be a different era. And they'll be like, oh yeah, those movies are good too. But, they have necessarily no direct connection to what's being told then. Right. 10 years from now, I think we're still going to be kind of in it. Still kind of still be in the shadows of Skywalkers. But, I don't think Luke will be in. I don't think there'll be any movies. I don't think at that point.
No, I don't think so either. I think 10 years from now, it's going to. I think what we're going to experience is we're going to experience still, which is surprising to think about, that you can still have advancements in technology like what we see in The Mandalorian with the volume, and I think that is just going to, that right there, watching that is it's clearly shown that they're going to just break open the door and be able to do content more quickly. I think that's why I think we're going to get more series on Disney Plus. I think films are going to be easier to do for Disney Plus. I think that's going to change filmmaking in general.
Absolutely.
But I do think that here's where I will feel the best about Star Wars 8 to 10 years from now. And I know I'm a broken record on it, but Dave Filoni right now is only 46 years right now. 46 years old. You got to keep him around for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And you got to give him the reins, the creative reins. He doesn't have to run the company.
Yeah.
Because he's probably not good at running a company. You have somebody like Kathleen that can do that, but you've got to give somebody like him the creative authority to do the things that he believes in, which is tell these stories about family and about hope, because that's what's going to keep Star Wars feeling the same as it did in the 70s. He could do that, and he needs to do that. And to me, that's, if you're Disney and you're putting him in charge of that, I think the future is so bright going forward into the next 10, 15 years. Because I just want to be able to, 7 years from now, I just want to be able to celebrate the 50th anniversary of A New Hope, knowing that all these stories that are coming out over the next 7 years have that same feeling. It can be new characters totally open for that.
Yeah.
But I want that same feeling that I fell in love with, which is exactly what Filoni described in that episode of Star Wars Galaxy. Gallery, I mean. And we just need that, I think, in this world right now. I think we need that as a society. I think we need that as people that are looking for places to be inspired. And the films, the shows, Galaxy's Edge, locations, whatever, these are things. The Star Wars is inspiring. And as long as they keep that viewpoint and give somebody the ability to do that and keep that aspect of it, I think the sky is still, there's no limit to where Star Wars can go over the next few years. So that's where I hope and and pray that that's where it'll go, and I think that we can get there with the right people. So. Now, really quick, before we wrap up, a little bit about us. What are we going to look like in the next 7 years? Case, are we still doing the show 7 years from now?
Oh man.
Do you want to answer that yet, or
unless,
no?
Unless just something drastic happens, but I don't know. I guess. But yeah, I guess I'm sure we would. It's just so hard to put myself in terms of, because right now we're just such in a time where podcasts they're so hot right now. It's like,
yeah.
So I don't know maybe there'll be a new medium, a new platform tool that we can't even think of at this point. But 7 years from now, I can't even think of what that would be. I don't know if video web shows will come back and maybe we'll make this strictly a web show thing. I don't know, but I think as long as Star Wars does pretty much what you just said, as long as it's staying true to what it is to the core, then I'm going to be happy. I'm going to love talking about it every day.
Yeah.
As long as it still does that to inspire me and to connect with me, and I'll talk about it. And I think as long as it's able to diversify itself to talk to other audiences out there, they'll talk about it. So, yeah, I think we'll definitely still be around. I'll still be consuming it, definitely. So I'll be 36, so I'll be my son will be 9, almost 10 at that point. Yeah. Turning 10. So I'm very hopeful, and I really want him to still be around with Star Wars, and so that we can experience that.
Yeah, this has been a great 7 years, and 7 years from now, if we're doing episode 600, I'll be ecstatic.
My gosh. Yeah.
But it's funny, as we grow and our kids are growing, it's just be funny. That's where I actually possibly see this, is actually maybe one day our kids are taking over for us.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Because I know your son's gonna be a Star Wars fan. My youngest, Eliza, who is 5 right now, is a big Star Wars fan. Yeah. I definitely see that happening. I definitely see this. Like you said, there could be a whole other medium that they get involved in.
Yeah, I don't know.
To talk about Star Wars and share their love for Star Wars, but no, I'm not only a Star Wars fan, I'm a Disney fan as well, as you are too. I'll still be going to the parks and consuming it all, and of course, as long as there's anybody out there that's listening to us, I don't know why we would stop, and we do appreciate everybody that's stuck with us. I know there's some of you that have listened to us from the very beginning, which is just unbelievable. And I know there's been a lot of you that have joined us just recently. So we appreciate everybody that, and That's the thing too. Is I think from going forward, we are trying to evolve. You know, for many years it was just a podcast. We just wanted to talk about it on a podcast, and you know, we are trying to think about other content that we can put out there. We're going to be focusing a little bit more on our YouTube channel going forward. We want to put some different shows, a little bit, if you can call them, different playlists on there. We've already started one called Council Sessions. We definitely want to do one where we're doing a lot more review-based things, mainly on the publishing side that we're talking about. Not only newer books that are coming out, but going back and talking about the books that have come out and reminding people that this story is really good. You should go check this out. I think we've brought on some very great co-hosts. Cody's been doing fantastic. Cody Geiler with us over the last couple of years. Hannah Burr now has been helping us a lot. She's really big into reading, and she has. It's really good to have a female voice. A female voice is someone we've wanted to add to the show for a long time, and of course, your brother Corey still helps out a lot. So, you know, we it's great to have people to talk about this with, not just me and you, and we want to keep them involved and keep everybody interested in what we're doing and what we're talking about. So we'll look for more of that stuff coming out, and then of course I don't plan on missing any celebrations as long as there are celebrations, and interacting with people and fans, and it's just going to be fantastic seeing new stories and new characters and all that stuff coming forward. So, you know, again, Casey's family, but I can't imagine talking to anybody else on this show besides you. You know, I mean, it's there was a couple guys I grew up with. One that I met in college, actually, that is a diehard Star Wars fan. I get texts from him every once in a while. We don't really see each other much, but I get texts because he lives in a different city. But I get texts from him every once in a while when Star Wars things drop. But you know, growing up, and I've said it numerous times on here. Growing up, I wasn't a huge diehard Star Wars fan. I loved it, but no one else was really a Star Wars fan that I grew up with. So it's hard when you don't have those things around you constantly. But ever since I've met Casey and his brother Corey, it's like, I mean, we were talking Star Wars, we were making films. You know, it's just part of our culture now and our family, and you know, it's. I think I just don't ever see that going away. And totally. I mean, you could see my room behind me. I want. 7 years from now, it'll just be more stuff in here. So anyway, I gotta thank Casey for sticking with us for all these years, and like I said, I can't see myself doing this without you. So
thank you. No, definitely some memories will be burned into my mind forever. One of them being, related to this show, one of them being, like when you called me and I was in college talking about what the idea of doing the show. It's like, oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So all the other experiences, you know, not just being at Celebration and experiencing with everybody else, but just like the road trip going up, getting hyped for it, the road trip coming back, and just decompressing what we just kind of saw. So, you know, it's always something new, you know, with Star Wars and being able to share with, and that is the best thing about Star Wars too. It's family and hope, and like we've been saying many times on here, and just to say it again in another way, but it's just, you know, to have it, like, Star Wars is best when you can share it with people, and when you can connect and share your different connections. You know, it's kind of the stories try to be thematically the same about family and hope, but you connect with it differently. And that's the thing. And that's kind of a responsibility that I need to put, you know, to own more of, especially moving forward the next 70 years, is the responsibility of connecting with the community. You know, we've we've tried to do that a lot. We definitely have. We have good relationships with some people who listen to us, but the community of Star Wars has gotten so big. It's not like it was anything new. It's just now with social media, it's just people are coming, or talking about their own Star Wars stories, and so that's just all of our responsibilities. Every podcaster is being able to just connect with the community and to kind of help unite it. Especially with the sequel trilogy, we've really tried to keep positive environments, with at least our sphere of influence with our show. But we need, I need to start definitely interacting with the wider, the wider Star Wars community out there. Yep. And see, it's huge. It's vast. It's so huge. Big, and I love it. And it's getting bigger, and it's evolving. So it's brave new world.
It is. And with that, the last thing I'll say is definitely the one thing I will say forever is thank you to George Lucas for starting all of this.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We wouldn't be doing this without him.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't. Yeah. No one would have any of this without him. And I'm very grateful for George, and I think a lot of people are. And I think, like you said, with the reemergence of the prequels a little bit that we're feeling, it's a lot of people are appreciating what George has created, and I just can't thank him enough. And I would if I ever saw him in person, he would probably be very uncomfortable with how long I hug him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, maybe one day I'll get that chance. But,
well, it's important, like we said about Filoni. It's like you need people to pass along that knowledge, that firsthand knowledge. So George Lucas to Dave Filoni, and then if you put Dave Filoni in that position as the George Lucas, he needs to start training next caretakers of the franchise. So it's just that I think that firsthand knowledge definitely has to be passed down.
Agreed.
For Star Wars to live.
To live on. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. That's wow. That's I love where that episode went. Episode 300. I think this is a special one. I think this is one that we can always kind of reflect back on years down the road and say, look, this is what we talked about back then and what we thought, and maybe we were wrong, but
maybe Star Wars is going to quit. Like,
maybe
we're done.
Exactly. When Star Wars finishes, we'll finish. And so that's possible, but I don't think so. I think it's become such a massive part of human life.
Yeah. Yes.
Of human culture that it's going to live on forever. So again, thanks, Case.
Yeah, man.
For getting on here. We will be back next week. We will definitely be talking about Star Wars Squadron, whatever we're going to see on Monday. We will be putting out some new recordings coming down the pipe with council sessions, and with again, like I said, starting to review some books. Our first one is Queen's Peril for sure. I just finished the audiobook of Queen's Peril. We will be discussing that book coming in the next week, and just to hint out some council session topics that we're talking about. We're going to do one about Darth Maul, and then we're going to do one about Boba Fett, and there's other couple of topics that we're kicking around, but some good topics coming out for that too. So stay tuned for that. We'll put that out. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, InsideTheForce.com. We're actually going to be another change. We're actually going to be migrating our stuff over to a different hosting plan, so stay tuned for that. It's not going to change anyway where you get your stuff. Our website might look a little different. We're kind of talking about that, but But just look for some more stuff, like Casey said. Let's look for more stuff from us and some more interactions with us. And again, can't thank you enough for listening. So we appreciate it. Anything else, Case?
That's good, man.
Thanks,
Happy
everybody, for
300.
listening. Yeah, thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great, great weekend. Take care. Stay safe out there. He's Case Cooley.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. May the force be with you.